Hi, folks. Welcome to another edition of Gold Bazan. Today we'll be talking about Iran's match versus South Korea, a post-match analysis about the comments that Queiroz had. A little debate happened between the panel about Aida Zahayeri or Bayram Van potentially leading up to the World Cup. And lastly, we just did a preview of the Syria match. Thankfully, we had all the panel of directors of Gold Bazan on the pod this time around: Babak Golriz, myself, Pezhman Pars, and Sina Saemian. We hope, as always, we appreciate the support, and we hope you enjoyed this one as well.
Hey guys, it's great to be speaking to all of you again.
Good to be here,
Pasha. Gang. The gang is back.
So, before we get into the gist of things, we just want to, for the viewers that are listening to this, we're going to basically just cover up the match that Iran just had against South Korea, and then after that, we're just going to be commenting on what Queiroz has said post-match, and then we'll be previewing the Syria match. So, starting off with you, Babak, surprisingly, I honestly thought that looking at the lineup that Queiroz was going to go with something much more Queiroz nowadays, as like to call it, something very unpredictable. But it was a very, pretty much, I like to call it, a very basic lineup. It was very surprising to see that Puri Ali Ganji and Ansari were the two center backs. Looking at that lineup initially, what were your thoughts on it?
To be honest, I'm not sure I agree with you if you're trying to say it was a predictable lineup because, okay, yes, the bulk of the lineup was what we would expect, but he threw in Ansari in a very big game instead of Jalal Hosseini, so he tried him out in that game, and then we also saw, if I'm not mistaken, Gucci starting again. Azmoun was not there, of course, so there was one or two little changes. Ehsan Haj Safi was back in the middle. I think, considering the fact that, okay, we've qualified, but we're going to Korea, they needed the win. We have this unbeaten record to defend. I think it provides a lot of pride for the players and the managers. So I wouldn't have been so happy if we made more wholesale changes. This is a good test for us going into the World Cup. It's probably going to be one of our strongest matchups in the lead up to the World Cup. So in terms of lineup, I think he made the right choice. If he wants to experiment a little bit more, the Syria game at home is probably the right place to do that.
Sina?
Yeah, I mean, certainly in terms of the lineup, I think around 7 spots in the team basically choose themselves anyway. But there are, of course, a couple of positions here and there that always leaves us wondering which direction Queiroz will be going. I think, as Babak said, the absence of Azmoun was definitely one of them. Whether he was going to go with Ansari Fad or Wuchan Najad or possibly even Taremi starting up front. But I thought he made the right choice in Wuchan Najad. Away from home, I always feel like his work rate and his tactical discipline is perfect for the way we play. Ansari was again a surprising one, but after the game, I heard that Hosseini was not match fit. He just recovered from an injury, and of course, with Montazeri getting an injury a couple of weeks ago and then not being involved in the squad, there wasn't really many options Queiroz had. So it was either going to be Cheshmi playing at centre back, who is a defensive midfielder, is a natural defensive midfielder, or Mohamed Ansari. And Ansari, I thought, did a okay job. He was a little shaky with Kurali Genji in the back. There was a few occasions where there was a bit of miscommunication, but all in all, keeping a clean sheet away from home was. I thought it was a good result. Also, the inclusion of Vahid Amiri as well, starting ahead of Taremi, who had been impressive in the last couple of games. I thought that was a bit of a surprise for me as well.
Pezhman, before you talk about, based off the comments that Babak and Sina said, were you surprised that Ashkan Dejagat was still starting at the number 10 role despite not having a club against such a big match?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised actually, because we know that Queiroz, although he may have some favorites, but he's not that kind of player, that kind of coach that lets players that haven't played a game for ages to play every game. So I actually doubt that he will play any minutes against Syria. And we also saw that Dejaga wasn't that impressive, at least in my mind. He didn't do anything that showed us that he should be a starter for the next game. But you can maybe say that for a couple of other players as well. But yeah, I'm surprised that he let Dejaga play. But then again, he has that experience that I guess none of the other players in the national team actually does with all his years in Bundesliga.
Babak,
also, we are sorry, Pasha, we are very thin when it comes to the number 10 spots. In the current squad, there's only Dejaga who plays there in that role. I'm not sure if Queiroz plays behind striker or on the wing, but the exclusion of Masoud Shojaei really hasn't given Queiroz any option for that role. So I'm more interested to see who will play that number 10 spot against Syria, because right now on paper there is not many players who can play there apart from Dejaga.
Sina, but coming back to you on this matter of fact is, obviously if you look at Mo Salman in the 4-4-2 diamond for Persepolis, and supposedly he's shone very well in that number 10 role, why potentially would you say that he hasn't gotten a call up? And we know about Suresh Rafi that he's now playing in Qatar, and I don't see him getting a call back up. But where do you see potentially that maybe Mo Salman might finally get a call up?
Mo Salman has been impressive for around 18 months, 2 years now for Persepolis, but he hasn't been involved, not even been invited to the squads. Queiroz usually announces a preliminary squad and then chooses the players from there, but he hasn't even been invited to that. So it's very unlikely that he'll be involved. But another player is Darushi Shojayan, who, even though he played for Gösteriş Fula, the mid-table team in Iran, he made a couple of appearances for Iran in the last year or so. So I was surprised not to see him in the squad, especially, as I said, with the absence of Shojaei. Rafi is a difficult situation because previously we thought Queiroz is using this as a tool to motivate him to leave Iran and play in Europe. And even though we all know that he did have offers from Europe, he chose to go and play in Qatar. So I don't know where Queiroz will be going with Rafi, whether he'll invite him back into the squad or not. But as I said, in the last few years, he's not really tried too many options. So with only 10-11 months to go till the World Cup, I don't think he'll be introducing a completely new player and then making him a starter for that number 10 role.
Babak, looking at obviously how big of a leader and our captain and basically how vital of a player he is, Jalal Hosseini, but when he wasn't playing, we saw how the partnership between Pourali Ganji and Ansari was very sloppy. It just seemed like the whole defense was falling apart, and luckily enough, Korea couldn't capitalize it. What did you make out of that, and foreseeing for the future for the World Cup of how vital this player is?
Before answering you, I'd just like to add to Sina's comment. If you think back to the Asian Cup, one of the players who most of the fans and maybe experts were criticizing most was Masoud Shojaei. And you fast forward 2-3 years, and now he's probably as vital a member of that starting lineup as anyone could be, because there is no alternative. Like Sina said, there is no viable alternative. Ashkan Dejaga was probably that player, but injuries and a lack of consistency at club level has hampered him. So I think right now Shojaei is definitely one of the first names on the starting lineup, considering his position. Maybe Pezhman later on can tell us a little bit more about Saman Ghoddos in terms of his favorite spot. But going to your actual question about Hosseini, yes, he's vital. I didn't think the World Cup would come around and he would still be a starter, but I think he's defied age. You wouldn't know he's 36 or 36 going on 37, I think, by the time of the World Cup. So you wouldn't know that. He adds some composure, experience. He still puts his head in where it hurts. So I think he also brings a little bit of composure to Pourali Ganji's game. So as of now, he would be starting for me at the World Cup. It was a big game to throw Ansari in. I don't think it was easy with the atmosphere and everything that was going on in the lead up to the game. So it's tough to he deserves another chance, probably in the friendlies, to see how he could settle. But overall, I think there are a few positions open right now, and one of them is probably center back. If someone can really step up, I think Carlos Queiroz would be open to potentially experimenting over there.
Pezhman, position that is pretty much up for grabs, and potentially I think Salman Godus might just secure it for himself is a left wing spot. We know Vahid Amiri for a national team level, in my personal opinion, hasn't done well. But for a club level, he's done a phenomenal job for Branko Ivankovic. How do you see that role playing a factor with Salman Godus? And if you could please tell us, the viewers, again more about the position that he predominantly plays for his club level, and do you potentially see him securing that spot for himself?
Yeah. Well, Salman Qudus plays for Östersund, and usually he plays as a striker or maybe behind the strikers. But then again, I've seen him on the left side a couple of games, so he can be there as well, but not a role that he prefers, I believe. The reason why he could take that spot, because so far, if you take out Masoud from there isn't really that much of a competition of that spot. You have Masoud there, but I don't know if he will be starting in the World Cup, because although he had some good games and so, but we know that he can also have a couple of really bad games. Ansari Fad have played there a couple of times, but then again, he's a striker as well, and it's not a position that he likes to choose. So Vahid Amiri is the only option that actually plays on the left on club level as well. And that's kind of a problem, because, as you said, he haven't done really good for the national team, although he has scored some goals, and he's a real fighter. He runs and does good in that kind of play. But
would you consider Ehsan Hajsafi on the left, or wouldn't you disturb the central midfield right now?
I think Ehsan should stay in the midfield, because he's done that quite good, actually. Then again, he's on the left side at club level in Panionios, and he's done that quite well. I can't see him going back to the left, but he's good at. They should be against teams that aren't as good in attacking as the teams who will be seeing in the World Cup, because you will have Milad Mohammadi on the left side defending. So I don't see Hajsafi doing left side attacking, because he won't be attacking that much. So Qudus, his way to the Iranian squad will be like a number 10, more probably, behind the striker. Or he won't be a striker right now, because Azmoun and Khoshanejad are the main options, and Taremi even. So there's 3 people ahead of him, sometimes even Ansari Fad. So I believe that the number 10 is what Salman should be fighting for, because right now we don't have anybody there besides a poor Dejaga, in my opinion.
Before we talk about the team performance as a whole against South Korea, and what did you guys make out of the South Korean side? Sina, I have a personal question for you that I think might interest you, is that if you look at Cheshmi, he's playing regularly for SLR right now, and looking at, obviously, I don't think Andronic Teymourian is going to come back. Omida Ibrahimi is out. And unfortunately, we're going to talk about Said Azatoli's red card as well. Now that Said is going to be out, do you see that Queiroz is going to, probably factor Cheshmian as more of a regular player?
Cheshmi has just come back from a terrible injury that he had. I think he did his cruciate ligament over 18 months ago. So he's been out all this time, and it's just this season, that he started playing regularly again. So I think that's how much highly Queiroz rates him, that even though he's had very few matches under his belt since he's come back from his injury, he's still invited him back. But I don't think we can look at him as a starter, even with Azatollah out. I think Ali Karimi would be a more suitable option. I feel like he's given a good account of himself whenever he's come on for Iran or when he started. So I think as long as Karimi gets a club, especially in Europe, and as soon as possible, then I really believe that he can even push Zatolai out and really claim a regular starting spot for him. But Cheshmi can be a useful player. We all know that Queiroz likes his versatile players. Cheshmi offers to play 2 or 3 positions. As I said, he can play a centre-back role as well. He has done on many occasions for the Iran under-23s. So he would be a good option to have in the squad, as we saw as well during the game when the South Koreans brought on their lanky striker Kim Shin-wook. Queiroz brought Cheshmi on, who's really, really tall player himself, to really counter that substitution, and it worked. So he's a good option to have on the bench, but I don't think he can really push to be a starter in this team.
Guys, I'm not so convinced with our central midfield. We haven't dominated the middle of the park for a long time. A game doesn't pop into my mind right now. But when we all talked about, I remember after the World Cup, we were talking about what happens next, and I think all of us agreed Ehsan Hajsafi should move to the middle. But at least I remember for me, the idea was there's going to be 3 players in the middle, and Hajsafi will be probably the third one, and would have at least one destroyer. At that moment, I think it was Andranik Temurian. Right now, I feel we're missing someone who can get the ball back. You have Hajsafi, who is okay, he's good box to box. When he has Saeed, who likes to dally on the ball, he wants to play a little bit. He's not the best, most disciplined tackler or even tactics-wise. So I think right now we're a little bit exposed. And going into the World Cup, if Saman Ghoddos plays, I don't think we're going to expect much defending from him. And then alternatively, you have Masoud. So you have a central midfield going up against probably 2 of the world's top maybe 20 or 25 countries at least, probably European, maybe even South American, we don't know. So we're going to be a little bit exposed, and I'm not convinced with the options out there. Like you said, Cheshmi is not a regular player, Karimi is not that sort of player either. We don't have a tough tackling central midfielder coming through.
You know,
there is one player that has been playing for Iran every now and then, Kamal Kamibiniya. He is the destroyer. If you want a proper destroyer to replace Andranik, he is the guy. He's the only one who can play that role. And Queiroz has invited him on numerous occasions. He's, I think, made 4 or 5 appearances as well for Iran. So I think we could see him come back into the team, and I agree with you, Babak, that that role, we do miss it a little bit. I thought that Hajsafi could play it, maybe with a little bit more aggression. But I think Kamibiniya would be an interesting player to look at in the next few months to see whether he would come back into the setup or not.
Pezhman, I want to discuss with you about Saeed Zatolai. Obviously, there's no discussion. That was a blatant red card after that cheeky stump he had. He's been such a big player for the national team, and it's going to be a loss because of the confidence that Queiroz has given to him, and the trust that Queiroz has for this guy. What do you see? What's happening next with Saeed Zatolai potentially that he's gonna be missing, and right now as the 2 gents just described that we're gonna be having issues again in the midfield. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I think it's an important wake-up call for Zatolai. If I'm not mistaken, he will actually not be able to play the first game in the World Cup if he'll get a 2-match ban. He can even get a 3-match ban, and then he will miss the two first games, and then maybe he won't even make the cut at all. Yeah. So that's something really interesting to follow. First of all, secondly, what was your question again? So I don't say something else.
I was just gonna say that now that he's potentially, as you just said, that he could even not get invited because of the ban and stuff. How do you think it's gonna affect Queiroz selecting other players? Because right now, as Babak did a great discussion about it, right now the midfield we have issues. Even against Qatar at home at the Azadi, you could just blatantly see that we still had issues, and Qatar were just all over us.
I mean, I believe that we will have some major issues. I mean, the only reason, not the only, but one of the most important reasons that Iran didn't let in any goals against South Korea was due to the poor pitch and the actually poor Korean players. Uh, Imagine in the World Cup, if we have a Ezatollah that haven't been playing any games, we have a Ali Karimi in the midfield that doesn't even have a club, and we can only rely on Haj Safi that maybe should play on the left. Who knows? Iran will be massively under attack. They will eat Iran alive. Uh, I can't really see. I think this is one of Queiroz' most difficult issues to handle with right now. The absence of Ezatollah is maybe good that it happened now, because then he have time to think about what he should do. Maybe he will bring back Omid Ebrahimi again, or Darush Shojayan. Maybe he will put up Pur Ali Ganji there, and let's Montazeren Hosseini play in the defense. But I'm glad that it happened now, sooner than later.
Babak, I know you're very critical of Said. Could you just give us your thoughts about the situation?
To be honest, I think Said Ezatollah needs to look at himself in the mirror, not on Instagram, but in actual fact. He needs to focus a little bit more on his football. There's one reason, and one reason only, that he's in the national team, and in my opinion, he hasn't technically earned it. It's because Carlos Queiroz gave him that opportunity when he was still with Atletico Madrid's youth side. He's had some good games. He's grown into the role a little bit, but then again, right after he builds something, he goes and has a very average or poor game the next time around. So he doesn't have that consistency. It doesn't help that he's playing or not playing in Russia, moving from club to club at the bottom of the table and not really getting minutes at any of the clubs. So maybe he's collecting a nice paycheck for himself, but he needs to be playing regular football in the right environment, surrounding himself with the right influences, because I don't think he has too many supporters right now if you really want to look at the games objectively. I personally I agree with Pezhman. It could be a blessing to experiment now, and if Said's out of the picture for a game or maybe two, whatever it is, Queiroz has the opportunity to look at other players and can maybe rework that central midfield. We know that potentially Said has that ability where he can unlock defenses. He has an elegant playing style, but we haven't seen too much of it, to be honest. He's had more average minutes than good ones.
Sina, now we want to talk about the team performance. Honestly, in my eyes, it was a very, very boring match. It was just pretty sloppy all around the park from both sides. Looking even at the South Korean team, I don't really saw them having a huge threat on us at all. Can't even remember what's something that they done besides maybe a mistake one of our players did. What did you think about the team performance all around?
I thought if Stölke was still their manager, I think we could have come away from that game with 3 points, because he likes to keep the ball on the ground, keep it moving, and that's partly the reason why we've been so successful against Korea in the last few years. With our style, of course, being counter-attacking and being very organised off it. But this time, Korea really changed their approach. They did not want the ball, not at all. They were relying on long balls, which kind of did affect us a little bit. I thought the first 15 minutes we were a little shaky, and we did not expect them to play so direct. They targeted the two centre-backs. They had a couple of hard chances very early on in the game, but then we settled into it. So I think that was a little smart of them to completely bypass the midfield, because I know we've criticised the central part of the park in our team, but when the opposition has the ball, we usually do well without it. So they completely bypassed the midfield and they targeted our back four, and especially the right hand side as well with Rezayan, and we saw he made a couple of mistakes. But I think after the sending off, they could have tried to get control of the ball, keep it moving, take advantage of the fact that they have one more man, but they didn't do that, which wasn't really smart on their part. But for us, I thought it was a decent performance. Again, I think it was Pezhman who mentioned it. The pitch didn't really help, but I was I was more pleased for the players who came on as substitutes, Ali Karimi and Cheshmi. Of course, Karimi I thought did a really good performance when he was on the pitch, as did Cheshmi. He did a job, but without a doubt, Milad Mohammadi was the star performer in that team. He, on so many occasions, he was very composed. He knew when to put a challenge in, when to jockey the man who was on the ball, and I thought he was really impressive. His composure in the defensive side of things is great. I think he's if he keeps this on, I don't think there'll be any doubt that he might be one of, if not the best left back that we've ever had for Iran. So that was the really positive note. Beiranlan didn't really have much to do, but towards the end of the game there was a couple of crosses which you would expect him to deal with anyway. So again, for the lead up to the tournament, to the World Cup, this game wasn't really something to be looked at in terms of drawing any conclusions from, but we did the job and we came away from that game with a point and another clean sheet.
Pezhman?
Yeah, I agree with Sina, but then again, we sound kind of cocky here. I mean, it's not easy to get a point against Korea in Korea actually, and they didn't have a single shot at goal. They had like a couple opportunities that were close enough, but I was really surprised by how weak Korea was actually, and part of it maybe due to the pitch, but they couldn't do anything when it really mattered. They had the ball good in their own half and had some nice passing, but the crucial passes weren't there. The crucial shots weren't there. And that's maybe something we have to give Iran credit for, really locking the game, making it hard for them to do something. And then it gets, as you said, kind of boring to watch maybe. But for me, I prefer boring rather than losing. I'm still surprised. We shouldn't forget that Iran had two debutants in this game. One of them from start with Ansari. He was kind of shaky, and Korea actually had a couple of opportunities where they headed the ball, and I can't see that happening with Hosseini in the back. He's too good for letting that kind of things happen. And also Cheshmi are debutants. Karimi have like a couple of games only experience. So we should not forget that it was a team that's maybe it was a team definitely never played together, but still they managed to make Korea like they were nothing. So in that sense, I'm impressed. But all in all, I think we can demand more from the national team of Iran.
Babak?
Yeah, I think the guys have covered it more or less. For me, after the first 15-20 minutes, I think generally speaking, I was as relaxed as I've ever been in a game in Seoul, especially in the second half. Even after the red card, there wasn't a real few minutes where I felt we were under the pressure, under the caution, we're going to concede. I felt we were comfortable. In fact, we probably became even more comfortable after the red card, where we had to sit back a little bit, be a little bit more cautious, because to be honest, I don't think we were ultra defensive as you would normally, let's say, assume, like the game where we beat them 4 years ago and qualified for the World Cup. So yes, parts of that is due to our organization, the confidence in the team, the setup by Queiroz, but also partly because this is probably one of the weakest Koreas we can think of in the last 20 years since I've been watching the national team. They're devoid of confidence. They're going through a managerial change. They don't look like they have too many leaders on the pitch. So I think overall, yes, good result. Performance was good as well, good enough considering the circumstances. We have to just build for the future and learn a few lessons.
Now let's talk about post-match of what Carlos Queiroz has said. I know Babak, I personally haven't really looked into what he has said or what the players have been posting on Instagram that has pretty much gone viral. If you could please let the viewers know of what Carlos Queiroz said and what are these like pictures that the players have been posting on Instagram.
Well, I watched a bit of the press conference, and after the game, he basically said that it's unfortunate that we don't get the praise or recognition that our achievements in recent times have warranted in our own country, which obviously Iran. But we hope that instead the world of football will recognize our achievements. We haven't conceded the goal for, I think it's 1,108 minutes maybe now. We've gone through the qualification campaign unbeaten. We have come here and got a good result against all circumstances. And he repeated again, it's unfortunate we can't get recognized in our country where they're not really praising us or giving us the recognition that we deserve for this. But let's hope that the world of football gives us that instead. I think that ties into what the players came out after the game and said. They were pointing out to the kind of support the Koreans were getting to try to get the result, and saying that we are getting the results, we're getting the performances, but we're not getting the support, and we should look at Korea, how the whole country came together to support their national team. So I don't know if it's just against the federation or if it's against the footballing community, or does it include the supporters? It's not really clear to me what the players were trying to do, but I think it ties into what Carlos said.
I think, Sina, you might have a better understanding of what's happening with that, right?
Well, I know that the whole issue about the lack of support is mostly aimed at the authorities, because today Queiroz released a statement saying to the federation and other people in charge that, look, you need to really keep your word and keep your promises that you gave to us some time back in regards to support, in regards to infrastructure and plans in preparation for the World Cup. So I think it's mostly in regards to that. I'm sure the players and Queiroz himself don't really have any problems with the fans. I mean, we've seen 100,000 people turning up to pretty much every home game in the final round and showing their support. So, again, I don't think the problem is with the fans. It's mostly with the authorities. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but clearly there is something that both players and Queiroz are clearly upset about. I don't know whether it was to do with the preparation for the Korea game or any training facilities that were promised, but it seems like, once again, just similar to the 2014 World Cup, this is going to be a very long year until the World Cup in terms of preparation and everything else around it.
Pezhman, based off what just Sina said, do you think that what Queiroz is probably alluding to is that the promises about maybe the future friendlies and stuff like that potentially might not be happening based off of what he wanted, or basically the plans that he had, that he basically set it out, but unfortunately it just seems like we don't exactly know, as Sina said, behind the scenes, but it seems like he's basically saying that what he wanted is not going to happen again. And this is going back to the whole scheme of maybe Carlos Queiroz is going to leave and whatnot. Does this make you a little bit worried of things, obviously, before the World Cup is going to happen in a few months?
Well, yeah, you can call it maybe like a friendly reminder or something. But then again, I don't know what he actually expects will happen. He's been in Iran such a long time now that I think he more or less knows that nothing, the things that he wants to happen will be really hard to making it happen. It won't probably be possible, but it won't be easy. And he's only starting the fight, and he maybe throw the first punch. So, well, we should be ready for this long, agonizing and kind of more or less sickening and tiring game that Queiroz has with the federation. Although he's not to blame, I'm not saying he's doing it wrong. I'm just saying that we are now used to it, and we will hear more press conferences or releases where he said that he's not getting the support and the players are professional and it's due to them that they can do good, not due to the federation.
So I have the statement here if you want me to read that out. The third paragraph, it says, there's no more room for excuses, explanations, or shifting responsibilities. Now is time, first of all, for our federation president and federation members to show if they are able to take leadership and stand unconditionally behind the players and the team. Secondly, it is time to prove without any doubts that they are capable and ready to fulfill compromises and promises and fully support the players' rights and Iran national team fans' expectations and dreams. That is the statement that Queiroz released. I think it was earlier today.
I know for a fact they wanted to play 2 friendlies, which with 2 big giants, and I think he's alluding to that in the sense that it's not gonna happen, based off what he wanted. But let's now jump into the scene of talking about the Syria match and getting your thoughts on that. Babak, coming off of you, as much as if Saeed was going to be part of the team, I personally wanted to see Saeed, Ali Karimi, and Ehsan Haitsevi as an experimental in a 3 midfield, because I feel like with this team that we have, I personally see, a 4-3-3. But coming off this match, Syria match, was pretty much all we want to do is try to get a clean sheet to maintain our record with that. But what are your thoughts on it? And do you see Queiroz pretty much going out with a very, very experimental lineup, or just the same lineup but just changed a little bit against South Korea?
I wouldn't say that all we want to do is get a clean sheet. For me, okay, it's nice we have this record, but it's there's an underlying thing to it, which is the organization and the setup that we have. I'm happy to experiment. I think this is the sort of game where we should experiment a little bit. We shouldn't go with the same lineup. I would like to see Alireza Haiti back into the fold. He deserves it. He's been injured for a long time. He's kept his head down, moved to a new country again, trying to help his club, and I think he's had very good reviews in Sweden's Allsvenskan. He's led them to a couple of positive results. They were bottom of the table. I think they still are, but there is a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel. So I think he deserves to stake a claim for the first team spot. I would like to also potentially see a shuffle in central midfield. We will definitely see it because Ezat Olay is out. But I don't know if Hosseini is going to be fit enough to play. If he is, it's worth considering something Sina said earlier, which is Pour Ali Ganji potentially moving to central midfield. That could be worth trying out, maybe against Syria, maybe in one of the friendlies later on. Saman Ghoddos, as we said, we'd like to see him play. I don't think we want to see Ashkan. He needs to find a club, whether it's in Iran or Qatar or anywhere right now. Playing football is the most important thing. Alireza Jahanbakhsh, maybe looking at him on the left wing. I know he's played there before at NEC and AZ as well. But maybe we have to look at the left wing again. I'm not sure if Sardar is going to be involved due to his injury. I know he was suspended. But alternatively, maybe Karim and Sarifar to look at a little bit of a bigger striker in a game to see how they would do. So I think we'd like to see some experimenting by Queiroz. We want to get the positive result. We want to get the win. Syria should not be underestimated. Yes, they are a country at war. They are probably minnows in Asian football, but they had too many positive results to think that it's been a fluke. So there's definitely something to it. And don't forget, Syria, if they win, I think they are going to go to the playoffs at the very least. So they have a lot of motivation, and they might be far more motivated for this game than us. Our players may have peaked out against Korea, where there was a lot of pride to it, and this game they may switch off a little bit. So let's hope we're switched on and we see a good game.
Pezhman?
My man Babak laying it down. Really, really nice, interesting stuff to hear. I do agree with most of the things he said, especially with Hadidi. I think he deserves a shot. I think Ansari Fad should play as well. Osmoon playing or resting. Why not, as you said, why not try some other players? Why not Taremi from start? Azadi is his home ground. He's familiar there. He's done good there with Persepolis and also with the national team. I would like to see Torabi, actually. It would be quite interesting. I think he's a player that should be trying his luck in Europe, actually. He can develop and be a big part of the national team. I would like to see Qudus. I doubt that he will be playing from starts, but maybe he will play something in the second half. But as usual, we never know. At least I never know Queiroz starting lineup. Whenever I think I know what he will do, he goes and plays Ansari. So you never know. For all we know, Buria Qafuri will play on the right all of a sudden, and Mohammadi maybe will play in the middle next to Pur Ali Ganji, and on the left side we'll have somebody else. So I don't know, but I would like to see Dejava resting. That's for sure. I think we need to let some other players show that they can do really good there. And I also really want Iran to not just win, just to crush the Syrians. I'm still, every time I think about the game in Malaysia, the 0-0 game, I get pissed due to how poorly the pitch was, and how the AFC actually allowed the game to continue, and how unsportsly, fair play wasn't anything that these Syrians were aware about. So therefore, I really hope that Iran will crush them. I don't care if they go to the World Cup or not, but I would like to see 4, 5, 6 goals, so they don't get so cocky just because they have some good results. So Babak, they are good, but we have teams like that before that did good one qualifier and then they just disappear, like Bahrain.
Jordan, another one.
Jordan, yeah, but I respect Jordan. For me, they are a solid team that simply aren't good enough, but they always give you a hard time.
Sina?
Yeah, I agree with Babak in terms of the Syria points that he made. I know what Pezhman is saying, but we cannot underestimate Syria. They're not here just because of a couple of lucky results. They are where they are because they deserve to be. They've earned those results, so we got to give them the respect they deserve. If we give them the half chances we gave the Koreans, I think there is more of a chance that they could punish us, because they have Omar Al Soma back in the national team setup. He's arguably the most on-form striker currently playing in Asia. So we cannot give those chances away. They have another player like Omar Kharibin as well. He can be just as dangerous. So again, I don't think we should really look at this as a guaranteed 3 points. Yes, we might go and win 3-0 or 2-0 or whatever, but we cannot just assume that we are going to get 3 points.
When was the last time that we won by 2 clear goals?
Well, I think it was against Lebanon, wasn't it? In 2014 qualifiers.
Yeah, so that tells you a lot about our football as well.
But I think we should give them the respect. But in terms of our own lineup, yes, the boys are right. Hariri should be given a chance, especially when you think of the first game we played against Syria in Malaysia, and it was Sosha Makani who started in goal ahead of Peyron Ban. So I think he might try something similar. Said Aghayi is a left back who might start. I'm not sure what Mohammadi will be feeling, whether he'll be fatigued or he's fresh from the game against South Korea, but he's a name to look at. Pezhman, I agree with Pezhman. Mehdi Torabi is another name that I feel like he should start, because he's on great form. His team so far are doing fantastic under the leadership of Ali Dai in the league. They are one of the title contenders as things stand. So he's another name. Mehdi Taremi will probably start on the left wing. But there's another name as well, one of our young players, Omid Nur Afghan, 20-year-old midfielder, plays for Esteghlal. He's the under 20s captain, if I remember correctly. His style for me is very similar to Haj Safi. He's box to box, but he likes to be on the ball too. So we might see him not necessarily starting, but if things are going well for Iran, I think that game might be the game that he makes his international debut.
Before we wrap this pod up, I just want to talk about some healthy competition because of Aireza Hayeri's back and leading up to the World Cup. That's going to be interesting to see if it's going to be Beyron Van or Hayeri. Coming to you, Pezhman, is that now that Aireza Hayeri is doing well for his club back in Sweden, and Beyron Van has been playing for the national team, and he's doing, you could say, decently well for Persuade sides. a lot of mistakes that has been going on with him. What potential situation do you see unfolding there? Do you see that maybe it's gonna be Hayek coming back, sliding in at goalkeeper spot?
Um, I don't know, but I think that the competition is something that suits the national team really well. We're not spoiled with these kind of opportunities that we can have several good players competing for a spot. Usually, it's the opposite, that we have a player that once been good and just keeps playing there due to lack of other players competing there. Um, so I think there's a big opportunity here for Hariri to actually take the spots. But then he will have to probably move to another league, because the Swedish league ends somewhere like in October or something like that, and starts again in April. And he will need to play some games during that time. It's a crucial part, especially when you're getting ready for the World Cup. So yeah, I think Hariri competing for the first spot is something good. Maybe even Sosha Makoni, now that he's back in Mjøndalen, although he's a Norwegian first division and not the top flight, it's still better than nothing, and he can be back in the national team as well. I can't see Hamed Elak being a part of the squad for the World Cup. I don't think he's good enough, at least for now.
Sina?
Yeah, I agree with Pezhman. I feel like Hariri has to perform at this level consistently over the season to really give himself a shot at starting in the World Cup. Because yes, I agreed with the guys in terms of him being given a chance against Syria, but I feel like it would be very disrespectful from Queiroz, just dislodging his number one goalkeeper for the last 2 years, because his former number one has been playing regularly for a few weeks. So I feel like he has to prove that he does deserve to be number one in the World Cup over the course of the season. Even then, I'm not sure if he would want to change things so much in the back four plus the keeper, because as we know, we spoke about the defenders and the central defenders, that there might be another defender coming in because of the aging of Hosseini, and Montazeri might not be involved because of course Queiroz said his move back to Iran from Qatar didn't really help his cause to start for Iran. So I'm not sure he'll be willing to make that many changes with so little time left. And as we know, we spoke about the preparations and the lack of friendlies, etc. So it wouldn't really be healthy. But Hariri certainly does need to play at this level consistently over the season.
Sorry, Sina. One thing, isn't that something that Queiroz actually does a lot? I mean, just look at the World Cup 2014. Who thought that Hariri would be starting in the World Cup? Not many.
The last World Cup, a year before the World Cup, the number one that was starting every single game had an argument, if you want to call it that, with Queiroz, and then he was put aside. Leading up to the World Cup, there was 3 goalkeepers being given a chance. He brought Daniel Dovari specifically because he didn't have a number one. He tried Dovari, he tried Rahman Ahmadi, who played against the South Korea game and put a good performance in, while Hariri was doing his thing in Portugal and playing regularly, which was fantastic for him. So it is not close to what we have here. We have a cemented number one. Back then we didn't. We were having a new goalkeeper every game.
Yeah, but sure. Sina, don't forget also, Pezhman is right. Hariri has been the number one from the World Cup onwards. The only reason he lost his place was reality, you can say, injury, and then not having a club. You can count on probably on one hand the major mistakes he made during that time. So performance-wise, he always performed for Queiroz.
No, I don't feel like performance-wise he was. No, I think he was in the first or the second round of qualifiers against Turkmenistan and a couple of other teams that he made wrong decisions. But again, I don't feel like he's lost his spot because of injuries. I think the thing that I've always criticised him for was the lack of ambition to play regular football. And we all agree that he's been lazy in the past 4 or 5 years. Even before the 2014 World Cup, he spent 2 years on the bench for Rubin Kazan.
He's moved to Europe. It's not easy to get to games at European clubs. Well, Bayram Van, instead of moving to Europe, whichever country you want to say, he's decided to stay in Iran, probably collect more money and have a comfortable situation. So I'm sorry, I can't agree with you in terms of lack of ambition. When you go and play for a second division team in Sweden, he's putting in the effort to try to play football in Europe and not in Iran.
No, the lack of ambition is him not having a club. Not necessarily playing for Iran or a European team.
It was easy. All our players will be playing for European teams then. But this is a guy who's knocked on different doors. He's moved from country to country. He's not stuck in one country like someone like Sardar Azmoun, who's in love with Russia. So I give him credit for that. I give him props for that. I agree. We shouldn't dislodge Bayram Van right now. But if you want to talk about mistakes, Bayram Van wasn't it his debut where he got a red card in the beginning of the game or somewhere in the game?
No, that was against Guam, I think. No, you're
Guam,
right.
Yeah.
Bayram Van has been. We've had this conversation before, and
it's one of the spots which I don't think Queiroz has nailed down anyone. Anyone can be replaced between now and the World Cup, depending on performances, their attitude, even Sardar Azmoun. So I think the competition is positive. The goalkeeper spot is one of the places where potentially there's more of an inclination for a change, depending on how things go between now and the World Cup. But Pezhman made a good point. The Swedish league runs out in October, and then what are you going to do for the next 4 or 5 months? So that's advantage Bayram Van. But I think all of us can be happy that there is a bit of a motivation for our goalkeepers. There is no guaranteed starter right now, so complacency shouldn't be an issue. So it can only benefit us.
No, I agree. Listen, Bayram Van, we spoke about this before. He's made a few mistakes, but as I said, I think if Hariri wants to be given a chance to start in the World Cup, he has to play every single week between now and the World Cup, and play as well as he has done in the last 2 weeks, because he's been fantastic. I've watched a few games of him. He's been making some amazing saves, and he's been crucial to his team. So he needs to keep it up for the rest of the season, because yes, I know what you're saying in terms of no one is guaranteed a spot, but it will not just take a few weeks of playing regularly to dislodge a keeper who's been in the team for 2 years.
Yeah, and listen, guys, that's interesting. The thing Babak said, that nobody is guaranteed, because it was not only for the goalkeeping position that Queiroz made a sudden change for the first game against Nigeria. I mean, who would expect Amir Sadeghi all of a sudden coming back to the national team and performing really well? Pouladi on the left back, at least for me, those were kind of like big surprises. Or Kharatbari doing really great and then getting the cuts in the last minutes. So as Babak said, and Sina, you agree, I'm sure that for the World Cup 2018, we'll have at least 1 or 2 debutants in the squad, or maybe even playing the first game in the World Cup. And that's really interesting. I don't see... Maybe only Jahan Bakhsh for me and Mohammadi on the left. Those two are the given players for me. After that, I'm willing to change every one of those players, or at least I'm saying that Queiroz is willing to change any of those players. None of them are in a safe haven, and that's kind of fun for us, because we know that the players, they give their best even in friendly games, because who knows who will be knocking on the door and taking that spot away from them.
I think you're right. It's very healthy. We haven't had this sort of, let's say, spirit and feeling in the national team. We've always had a cloud of influence by some of the more experienced players during Ali Dai's period, and then after that, even with Nekunam and afterwards. So right now, we don't have egos at all, I feel, and it can only be good. And we have to praise Carlos Queiroz for creating that team spirit.
So, is there any other final thoughts you guys have before wrapping it up?
Last predictions maybe for the game. What you guys think?
Yeah, go for it. You're gonna say 1-1 or something.
You're gonna say Iran will concede their first goal?
I was going to say 1-1 is as unlikely as a 3-0 win.
No, I said Pezhman was probably gonna say 1-1.
No. I would like to see the whole record, World Cup record, continue. Qualifying, no goals let in or something. I don't even know who was before.
Would you take a 0-0 over a 2-1 win?
No, I don't really care that much about this. I love to see. I'm willing to see a 5-4 win. I just want to see Syria lose. I just want them to cry after the game. For me, I don't care that the country is torn apart in war. That's the country. The football team. When I saw them play, I was really shocked. I was like, oh no, they're like other Arab teams that Iran hate to play against, like Qatar and Bahrain and all the other teams. Not Oman and Jordan, but the Persian Gulf teams. I was surprised. So let's just kill them on the pitch. That's for me. It's enough.
Sina, Babak, any other final comments?
If I had to predict, I would say we're probably going to concede our first goal, but we'll win 2-1.
Sina?
This is probably the most difficult game to predict for me. I feel like it'll be 1-0 or a 2-0 win. But then again, I keep thinking if we score 1, then because they have nothing to play for, they're just going to go all out attack and then they just capitulate and we'll score more goals. So I'm not sure. I'll stick with 1-0.
I say 6-0. 6-0 in like 5 different.
I think someone called the presses because Pezhman and I have both said Iran's going to win. That's not so often.
Yeah, true. Pasha, what's your predictions?
My prediction is 3-0 Iran.
Oh, nice.
Someone's going to win either way.
Yeah. All right, folks. Well, that concludes this episode of the pod. As always, you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, different outlets. Just type in Golriz. We will be making a website soon. There's been a few people that have been contacting us for that. We'll give updates for that when it happens. But as always, appreciate the support, and we're gonna keep building content leading up to the World Cup. As always, appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you guys.
Yeah, and thank you. And Pasha, one last thing for people listening. The kickoff is Tuesday, 17 CET, 16 GMT. That would make it like 1930 Iran time, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And 11 New York time, and yeah, you figure out the rest. So, but be sure to convert to your local time, guys, wherever you're listening, so that you don't miss the game. You can stream it free on YouTube on theafc.com.
Thank you, Pezhman.
You're welcome.